Hello folks, welcome to El Canal Channel Jose. Today we got this video how to remove an idle air control valve on a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel, and this is an idea how to remove this item, and we promise you we'll make this video and we're going to show you the process, and hopefully this video is useful. So we'll get started. Today we're going to show you how to remove the idle air control valve on a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel, and for that is hidden underneath the throttle body, so it's down there, so we can't see it right now, but we're gonna show you the process on how you can remove it to clean it. And for that, we're gonna disconnect the battery first to do this job, and then we'll start taking apart the intake pieces of the plastic, so that way we start cleaning up to get the throttle body away. But there's other stuff we gotta remove, and we'll show you the process. So what we do, we loosen this nut. It's a 12 millimeter, so we can get the throttle body cable off of that bracket, and we can take it out from the throttle body because it's gonna be on the way. Okay folks, so we got the microphone went out on this, but we're gonna try to do the straight from the phone, so it's gonna sound different. But now we gotta disconnect this hose, this vacuum hose from here, and the other one, both go to this sensor, to this blue sensor. So one, we're gonna disconnect it, the one that goes down there, we're gonna disconnect it from this side, and the other one we're gonna disconnect it from that side. So from there and from there, so these hoses are alternated, so we know that this hose, pay attention where it's going inwards, and this one goes to the throttle body. So we disconnect those two to get the air duct out of there. So now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna loosen the clamps for the air box, or for the air intake. 1, 2, 3, and those are 10 millimeters. And then we're going, once we start pulling the plastics off, we're gonna be pulling this guy from here, and then we're gonna loosen this clamp or this clamp to get it out of there, so we can pull it straight up, so this tube gets out of the way. One thing, if your throttle body has this hose that goes to that sensor right there disconnected, so it's gonna be one hose that we gotta disconnect as well. So, and then this one, because this one is over the box. This is for a PVC valve. Now we remove our air plastic tubing. So now we ended up with the throttle body a little bit cleaner, and there's our idle control valve right down there, idle air control valve. So we're gonna have to disconnect this side right here, disconnect these two hoses here that go to the EGR valve component, and then we're gonna probably remove the fuel rail and the injectors, disconnect them to get all that out of the way, so that it slides forward, because it was gonna hit the rail. So now we disconnect these two hoses. The outside goes to the outside one, and the inside one goes to the inside fitting. So we disconnect those two. So now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna take the nuts and the bolts to secure the throttle body towards the platinum, and we're gonna show you by removing all those. You're probably gonna have to slide the throttle body forward to take it out of the studs on the top. You're gonna have to remove the fuel rail, so we're gonna try that without removing the fuel rail for right now. But in the past I had to remove it because it wouldn't come out, because it has to slide straight forward. So we're gonna take those are 12 millimeter nuts and 12 millimeter bolts. There's 4 of them. So once you remove the 2 bolts and the 2 nuts that secure the throttle body towards the platinum, there's the 2 nuts that go here, and the 2 bolts go one here and one here, 12 millimeter. You know, all this holding that towards that platinum is that gasket that is attached to it is stuck, so you gotta pry it and work it out, and that's when the gasket breaks. So you gotta be careful not to break any other thing. So just pull it back towards the front slowly. You gotta work it. It's gonna be stuck to the platinum, so that's all they attach the throttle body to that, the 2 bolts and the 2 nuts. Okay folks, so now that we have taken off all that and the throttle body came loose from being bonded to the platinum, now what we're telling you is that you have to remove the fuel rail to remove the throttle body, and you don't have to do that. I'm gonna show you. I was studying this part, and then what you can do is that once you separate this throttle body away from the platinum, there's gonna be a gap right between there. What you can do is grab some channel locks, grab on that because there's no threads in there, and grab that and then start loosening it, and then on this side you can make sure that it's turning. And what you can do is you can take it completely out from there, and then once you take it completely off of there, you can slide it through that hole and bring it out, and then you can bring the throttle body up without taking the fuel rail and the fuel injectors out and disconnecting all that. So if you don't want to mess with this, you can do that. Just take your channel locks right between there, loosen them up. As you can see, there's some threads coming out already. You just got to undo this one and undo that, and then we can put it through, and then we should be able to pull the throttle body. Once we pull those 2 studs out, pull it out. So now folks, what we have done, we have loosened it up, and then we got it all the way to the point where we can spin it by hand. And then once you get it completely off, you can pull it through. And then once you get it, remember, if you're still turning it from there with the pliers, be careful not to grab too much into the threads, just softly turn it. And then we just got the other one to take out, and this, you pull it through. Don't lose these studs because these are very important to put the throttle body back. Okay folks, so now what we have is that throttle body is loose because we got the studs from up there where that 12mm nuts were holding from this side. So now what we do is we pull it up and we start undoing our hoses from the bottom. And remember, mark the hoses where they were so you don't forget. And as you can see, the valve is visible now. And those were the vacuum hoses, and those vacuum hoses come from this side, from this sensor, the little orange sensor that is right here. They come joined, and those 2 hoses go to the valve. So now what we have left is the 2 hoses that are the antifreeze or the coolant going into the valve. So we gotta take those two hoses off. The other hose right back there is the other one, so we take this one off. So now we took the clamps off of those 2 hoses. The antifreeze or the liquid that goes into the valve, this goes into the throttle body, and that's from this side where it goes towards the passenger side to the water pump, and the other hose that goes towards the angle fitting goes to the driver's side. So just to show you which hoses go where. And sometimes these hoses don't want to come out, so they're stuck in here. So you just gotta have pliers and twist them off, and so they can slide away from the fitting. And sometimes it's easy to take them out, sometimes it's not. So you break them from being bond, and then you can slide them off. So one thing I can say, folks, if you got a throttle body with a lower point, which is the idle control valve in the bottom or idle air control valve in the bottom, don't clean your valve or your throttle body, because all that gunk is gonna fall. It's gonna clean up, but it eventually is gonna make it through that opening, and it's gonna fall right into the idle air control valve, and it's gonna stay there, and it's gonna mess up your valve. So don't do that. Take apart your throttle body and your valve and clean it, because all this stuff is gonna end up in that valve. And because it's the lowest point, there's an opening here, right there, and there's an opening point there, and all that gunk is gonna wash off and it's gonna run down there to the valve, and it's gonna clog it up. Now we have removed our throttle body. We have the valve down below here. We take it off with a Phillips screwdriver, and we take it off from the throttle body. Okay, folks, so now we have taken off our idle air control valve off, and then you did whatever you have to do, clean it and clean the throttle body, and now is new gasket and fresh start. So we put it back in, and like what I saying is that you wash your throttle body here and here, and all the gunk runs down that opening, ends up in the valve, and it clogs it up more. So now you got bigger problems. So that's why we gotta clean the throttle body and make sure that the valve is clean too. See all that gunk start running down here? So that's why these valves get clogged up if they're on the lower part of the throttle body. When you clean the throttle body, all that ends up in that valve. So now we have cleaned it, and then for example, we have cleaned it, so we put it back on, new gasket, new O-ring, and then we put it, present everything, and then we put it back through the platinum. Okay, folks, so now we're gonna put the throttle body back in, and then first thing you have to do is connect your two hoses for liquid and two for vacuum. And the two for vacuum are different colors than the liquid. These are chrome and these are kind of gold. So put it back in, we connect our vacuum and our antifreeze ones, and then we start connecting our hardware back in. Now that we have connected our hoses, 4 hoses, the antifreeze 1, 2, and then the vacuum, this is the vacuum, and the other one in the back right there is vacuum. So 4 hoses, as you can see. We put the clamps on, and then we present our throttle body against the platinum, and we start putting the studs right into it, sliding through the throttle body, and start tightening it in with the channel locks so we can get it presented. And also, folks, this little hose, this vacuum hose, goes right into this fitting. So we plug it in while we got the throttle body loose, so we don't fight it while it's in place. So it's probably gonna be a little complicated. So now we got it on, and we put it and set it and start putting the studs back in. After you put a new gasket too, because this, if you put a new gasket, now that we have put one, we put the second one, so they're both fitting uniform at the same time. So we have tightened one stud, so we're gonna be tightening the other one with a channel lock. So what we do is we grab it from the threads and slowly start spinning it. Okay, folks, so now we have put the studs on top. We still got the space. So now what we do is we slide our throttle body back, and then we start putting the 2 12mm nuts and that 12mm bolts in the bottom to tighten them and secure the throttle body. We have put our 2 nuts and the 2 bolts in the bottom. We tighten it because right now it's still loose, and so we tighten it with a 12mm socket. So now at this point we can connect our hoses from the EGR valve. So the inside one was going to the inside fitting, and the outside was going to the outside fitting. So now what we connect is our throttle body position sensor connector. So now what we do is we connect the hose that was going into this fitting from this sensor. Some Tercels don't have it, so but if you have it, connect it back in. So now what we do is we connect our air intake tubing plastics to the intake, to the throttle body. We tighten the clamps. We loosen them all because we didn't know which ones we were gonna take out, but we tighten them all the clamps, the top, this and that one. Now we plug in our hose from the intake tubing to the valve cover. Now we get our hose from the PVC valve around. We push it through this clamp and then we connect it to the platinum. We slide the clamp over and it's connected now. Okay folks, so now what we have is we have to connect that sensor that is there. This hose, this tubing goes over and it goes into the platinum right here and it connects there. So now we have this other tubing from the vacuum that goes right into this second hose. So just work it in, slide it. So we have all the tubings connected. So now what we have left is the throttle body cable to connect it, and we should be almost done with the process. Okay folks, to remove that cable for the throttle body, you gotta loosen this nut right here, and this one you gotta move it both back and forth to adjust the tightness of the cable. And to remove it or put it back on, to remove it you gotta go like this, take it out from this housing, pull this lever back, it has a spring loaded, then you gotta lift it and slide it out to the side like so through that groove. And to put it back on, you slide it in, and then once it's in place you lay it down and let it go, and then you bring it back to this housing, slide it in, and then you tighten the back nut, and that secures the cable to this housing or this plate. So now the throttle can be pulled through the pedal on this cable. To tighten it, it's a 12mm nut or wrench. Well folks, this was an idea how to remove the idle control valve or idle air control valve on a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel. You don't have to remove the fuel rail to get all that throttle body off, to get the valve off of it. You just gotta remove the 4 bolts, or 2 nuts and 2 bolts, and then get the space to get the channel locks or pliers in there to loosen those studs and take them out so the valve and the throttle body slide up. So you don't have to, because there's a component that hits the fuel rail, so you don't have to do that. Well folks, hopefully this video was useful and informative, and give you an idea how to remove this idle air control valve on a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel fuel injected system. So hopefully this is useful, and we'll see you with more videos here en el canal de Chano Jose.